Autobello is an Italian auto manufacturer largely based on the real-world automaker Fiat. They are primarily known for producing inexpensive, simple vehicles, although they also produce industrial-grade models such as the Stambecco. These were commonly used as fire trucks in Italy, as well as rally support vehicles all over the globe. It wouldn't shock me if these saw some use in the Italian military also, as the Stambecco's large size, off-road capabilities, and great strength and durability make it a solid choice for military duties. The Piccolina sits on the opposite side of the spectrum in terms of size, being an inexpensive city car with an iconic design and long production run, lasting from the 50s to the 70s. Despite mainly being associated with commuting around Italy, the Autobello brand seems to have a pretty strong motorsports pedigree, with the Piccolina in particular being competitive on asphalt racetracks, dirt trails, and sand dunes. It's pretty safe to assume that Autobello is more of a mass-market Italian manufacturer, catering more towards the working class with inexpensive, simple vehicles. Bruckell is an American automaker, seemingly based on an amalgamation of Chrysler and GM's more mainstream brands. They also seem to be one of the longest-running automakers in the BeamNG universe, as their range of vehicles available in the game spans between the 1930s and the 2020s, including the oldest car in BeamNG's roster, the 1934 Bruckell 9. On the opposite end of the age spectrum is the Bastion, which in current day is one of the most powerful sedans you can buy for not a lot of money. The perfect car for doing burnouts at those street takeover thingies. And for law enforcement, it is the perfect car to chase anybody who's stupid enough to get involved in the act of taking over a street. They also made some best sellers in the past, including the 70s Moonhawk and 80s Legrand. Bruckell is also part of the same parent company as Soliad, and in the base game this is reflected with Bruckell's Legrand sharing parts with Soliad's Wendover. The Legrand-Wendover duo perfectly reflects the marketing position of Bruckell and Soliad, with Soliad's offering being more upscale compared to the Legrand, which is aimed at a more mainstream audience. Burnside is an American automaker that I always found myself asking lots of questions about when it comes to the lore of the brand in the BeamNG universe. They seem to have made some attempts to expand the brand's lore in recent years, such as putting a Burnside flag at a car dealership in Utah, and also seeming to recently confirm that, canonically, they are the luxury division of Gavril, although this may have been known for years and I am just dumb for picking up on this now. They seem to be based on the brand Lincoln, based on Burnside's connection to Gavril. Their lone vehicle in BeamNG's playable roster, the 1953 Burnside Special, is a luxurious cruiser with a design that is the sum of what Americans thought looked stylish in the 1950s. Lots of fins on both front and rear, monster teeth being used as a grille, and lots of chrome to tie it all together. I really hope to see more lore expansion for Burnside in the future, as it would help establish a unique identity for the brand. Plus, the Lincoln brand made some vehicles that would certainly be interesting additions to this game. Cherrier is a French automaker that seems like a combination of the Citroën and Peugeot brands. They seem to be mainly known to produce vehicles that are quirky, and serve as alternatives to, well, boring and not quirky vehicles in their segments, at least for European markets. Depending on how you look at it, they either have only one drivable vehicle in the base game, or they have two. That's because their one vehicle is actually a platform shared between two models, as the hatchback Vivas and crossover Tograk both ride on the FCV platform. As for the FCV vehicles themselves, they are pretty typical French affairs, full of quirks inside and out. Much like Autobello, they also seem to have a strong motorsports pedigree, particularly in the world of rally racing. But whether it's on the track, or in this case the rally stage, or off, the Cherrier brand stands out from their mainstream competitors with their interesting vehicles. Civetta is an Italian automaker based on Ferrari. This brand is one of the fan favorites amongst the entire roster, because unlike the majority of the other brands here, this brand doesn't take slow and boring as answers, almost exclusively producing exotic speed machines over their history. The Civetta brand has established itself as the premier name in the realm of ludicrously expensive, yet ludicrously fast machinery. As for what BeamNG players can drive, the Soliad is a car that did lots of winning in the 80s, but won't really win anything today unless it's in the looks category, or the hard to drive category. But if you prefer to win more than that, Civetta has you covered with their modern offering, the Scintilla. Distinctive? Check. Fast? Check. Amazing sound? Checkaroo. Just looking at these two examples, it's no wonder why the Civetta brand has earned legions of fans in both our world and in the virtual world of BeamNG. Civetta even has their own animal mascot of sorts, but instead of Ferrari's horse, Civetta has their owl. And Civetta really wants you to know that this is their spirit animal, putting owl badges all over their cars, owl logos on their racing liveries, and even putting up statues in Italy, proudly advertising their mascot, sporting a quote from none other than their own founder, Antonio Civetta. Although in reality, this is a quote from hundreds of BeamNG players from about 10 years ago. Definitely look up BeamNG Civetta statue to see what I'm on about. The Civetta name has been one of the most decorated, both on and off the track, for many years, and it will likely continue to be that way for years to come. ETK is a German automaker based on BMW. They are mainly known for producing a lineup mainly consisting of sedans and wagons that can easily be used as daily drivers despite their incredible performance prowess. Every once in a while, though, they will attempt to go all out with performance with cars like the K-Series Coupe. They even have in-house tuners Rennspect, who will attempt to push the level of performance in a luxury car to its absolute limit. Like how Civetta is the premier name in exotic cars, ETK is the premier name in superb driving dynamics. But being a German manufacturer, they don't put as much effort into creating wild designs like the Italians, instead focusing on fine-tuning the ride and handling down to the smallest millimeter to deliver a superb driving experience unrivaled by its competition. They are also a well-known name in the motorsports scene, particularly in the Deutsch Tourenwagen scene, where they dominated in the 80s with the I-Series and continue to be very successful to this day. FPU is a Polish manufacturer who mainly seems to be known for producing vehicles intended to be used for recreational purposes in rural settings. I genuinely had some trouble trying to come up with words to describe this brand. I also genuinely have trouble trying to come up with a useful scenario for their only vehicle in the game, the Hydra. The Hydra is a weird ATV type thing that is the most ungodly slow thing you will ever have the displeasure of piloting. Seriously, this thing makes a Bruckell 9 look like a Scintilla in terms of speed. I never drive this thing in the game, except for that rare occasion where I take it out on the water, the only thing it's semi-useful for in my opinion. Even then, I bet paint could dry faster than it takes a Wydra to cross a small lake. It's such a shame that this dud dropped in the otherwise awesome 0.27 update that brought a host of other awesome off-road vehicles along with an awesome off-road map. Hopefully in the future this brand will have a chance to redeem itself within the BeamNG community. Gavril is an American automaker based largely on Ford. Much like Bruckell, Gavril is also one of BeamNG's longest running automakers, in more ways than one. In the game, their drivable models go as far back as the early 1960s, and even technically the early 50s when the related Burnside brand is accounted for, and the range spans into the 2010s. In our world, a Gavril vehicle was the very first one we saw in BeamNG, as their D-Series was the very first vehicle made for BeamNG, back when they planned for this game to run on the Cry engine. And even before BeamNG was a thing, the Gavril name existed in Rigs of Rods, the spiritual predecessor to BeamNG. So yeah, the Gavril brand is literally older than BeamNG itself, and maybe even older than some of you viewing this video. This extra long lifespan compared to other automakers in the game has allowed them to feature a huge variety of drivable models. These include comfy sedans, versatile SUVs, pickup trucks, commercial vans, big rigs, and more in between. Their smaller, more car-like models seem to be a popular choice for fleets, law enforcement agencies, and rescue squads, while their bigger vehicles are popular in the world of transport and logistics. But if you're either more relaxed or fun-seeking, Gavril has you covered there too, offering luxury and sport trims of their models. Gavril truly has something for everyone, which is why they seem to continue to hold a top spot in the US vehicle industry. Hirochi is a Japanese manufacturer that seems to primarily be based on Subaru. They are mainly known for their range of compact vehicles that have surprising amounts of power and tech packed into them, making their vehicles some of the most fun to drive among the BeamNG roster. Their Sunburst serves as a more fun alternative to boring econoboxes, such as those from rival Japanese brand Ibishu, while their SBR4 sports car packs some serious performance under its sleek and stylish body, and can hold its own against ETK's K-Series for a noticeably smaller fee. Hirochi is even into the world of fun yet affordable off-roaders with its Orada UTV. For the most part, these models have one interesting thing in common: boxer engines. Save for the fully electric version of the SBR, as well as the aforementioned Orada, all of their models use this unconventional powertrain. Something else these models have in common is their role in building Hirochi's motorsports pedigree. The Sunburst has dominated rally stages for decades, while their SBR is a formidable hill climb weapon. The Orada has even brought some of that success to backwoods racing. And of course, these cars are all boatloads of fun to drive, and are even quite affordable once they're off the track. Ibishu is a Japanese manufacturer that seems to mainly be a mixture of Honda and Nissan. Unlike their rival Hirochi, who seems to be focused on making vehicles that are fun yet affordable, the Ibishu brand for the most part is only focused on the latter. Don't get me wrong, they do still have fun vehicles, like the BX series that is well known in Japanese car circles for its fun, nimble handling, and there's a reason why every year many of these get chopped up and turned into drift machines. Much like how many examples of their Hopper get turned into ultimate off-road machines, because they're just fun vehicles. And the entirety of their GTZ lineup shows that there is still interest in making vehicles for driving enthusiasts at Ibishu. However, these vehicles in their base forms are for anything but the driving enthusiasts. They're for the people who just couldn't care less about cars, and view cars as having just one purpose: get them from A to B. And while a base Pessima or Covette delivers greatly on this expectation. They certainly won't be winning any races on their way to point B. Besides the Econoboxes, Ibishu also makes some plain weird vehicles, like the three-wheeled Pigeon and Widgeon duo. And these are mainly design exercises that are produced in relatively small numbers. Despite their mostly boring image, Ibishu has tried their hand at motorsports, including rally racing with a specially made mid-engined version of their Civetta. Ibishu did also seem to find some success in touring car racing with multiple generations of Pessima, though it seems like they've never outright dominated any category like other manufacturers have, which seems to show that Ibishu's priorities for succeeding are located off the track rather than on it. Randolph is the manufacturer of the dry van trailer in BeamNG. Yeah, that's right, this trailer has a manufacturer, and you'd be forgiven not knowing that, because their name doesn't even appear in the vehicle selector. The only place you can find their name in the entire game is right here. So this Randolph company makes this trailer, but what else would they make beyond this? I'd assume not much. Their name isn't even plastered all over the maps like a lot of other manufacturers, so I'd assume they're targeting a more niche audience, such as those who need heavy-duty trailers to transport large quantities of various items across the world. Speaking of the world, where in the world are they from? That isn't even officially confirmed, although I suspect they're an American company, since the style of trailers they produce is more of an American style. You know, thinking about it, it's weird that none of the stuff you can tow besides this has a manufacturer attached to it. I think BeamNG could definitely expand on this, as it would add another layer of immersion to this already detail-focused game. Sandstorm Performance is an American manufacturer who primarily seems to produce specially built vehicles for off-road racing, such as the Dune Kicker Baja truck and Rock Basher crawling machine. They aren't limited to producing just these, however, as it also seems they can modify existing road-going vehicles into ultimate off-roading machines, such as the Ibishu Hopper, which has a configuration that features the SP logo. An interesting fact that many newer BeamNG players probably don't know about is that they used to have a slightly different name in earlier versions of the game, being called Samuelson Performance back then. The BeamNG devs didn't really explain the name change when it happened, which makes me wonder if this is a situation where Samuelson came under new ownership or merged or something like that, or if this is simply a change related to BeamNG's development. Because those in the know will definitely tell you that things change all the time during game development. Back to the Sandstorm Performance brand, it seems that regardless of what brand name their off-roaders are produced under, these off-roaders will be absolute beasts that conquer anything thrown at them, from rocks to opponent vehicles. Soliad is an American automaker primarily based on the more upscale divisions of GM and Chrysler. Oldsmobile and Chrysler are two specific inspirations I'll mention here, since they made the vehicles that inspired the two vehicles from Soliad that players can drive around with. First being the Lansdale minivan, in particular the 90s and 2000s version of the van, that changed family transportation in the 1980s. Also debuting in the 80s was the Wendover Luxury Coupe, which offered a bit of the future on the inside with its fully digital gauges and touchscreen, and eventually the futuristic theme was brought to the exterior with its 90s facelift. Something most BeamNG players won't really notice about this brand, or any other in-game brand that does this, is that this brand's model names seem to have a common theme, in this case being named after real-world places. Wendover, Utah, and Lansdale, Pennsylvania to be specific. Soliad's not alone here, as many of BeamNG's brands follow naming schemes that are based on what real-world manufacturers of that type would use. For instance, the luxury ETK brand uses a bunch of numbers and letters for their model names, while Civetta primarily uses Italian for their model names. It's just another nice detail that helps separate BeamNG's fictional brands from others in the gaming sphere. Back to Soliad. They are, of course, the other half of the Bruckell Soliad Corporation, being the more premium brand in the Bruckell Soliad hierarchy. Again, the Legrand-Wendover duo helps illustrate this well. Wentward is an American manufacturer that seems to be specialized in making heavy-duty automotive machinery, primarily focusing on buses. Their first vehicle was added to the game in the spring of 2018, that being the DT40L, a bus primarily used in cities like Belasco as public transport. For the longest time, this was the only vehicle with their branding on it. However, in the recent 0.36 update, Gavril's MD series had some school bus configurations added, which feature the Wentward logo on them. This seems to confirm that Wentward doesn't just produce bespoke buses, but they also produce conversions that turn other vehicles into buses, such as vans and trucks.